To order on Monday, March 14th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrant number 30, 228. 22, number 31, 228, 22, number 32, 228, 22, payroll register number 9, 3, 3, 22, number 10, 3, 10, 22.
Motion to accept the warrants.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We have a game of chance for VFW Post 7865.
They want to renew for a year to continue to play Texas Hold'em. So that's what you'd be approving.
And that's any just random times.
They have all the dates specified in their application.
All right. Looking for a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept a game of chance for the game of chance license for the VFW Post 7865 in Madison. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes from February 28, 2022.
Move to accept.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes of February 28, 2022. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody,
None, sir.
Mr. Manter,
None.
Mrs. Dwyer,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Gopi.
None.
Okay, items of communication, Mr. Town Manager.
All right. Some other boards and committees are in the news. There was a news article released today indicating that the board of directors for the Water District, Hanson-Madison Water District, have filed suit against the former superintendent. Just wanted the public to be aware about that if they read it in the paper. Again, that's a water district issue. You may have seen some articles in the paper from the congressional delegation of the Senators King and Collins and Representative Golden that the House and Senate has passed a bill that includes funding for Madison projects, and they expect the president to sign it. That funding will go towards a lot of work done at the former Madison paper site and the sanitary district, which they are working to create a PFAS treatment system of forever chemicals and an anaerobic digester, which will aid that whole process. So it's a good thing for the community, and it's a good thing for that site down there. I saw an email from the State Bureau of Parks and Lands that said the bidding process has begun to have a contractor come forward to start taking out all the rail and all the railroad ties between Oakland and Emden. And so the bidding process should be completed by the end of the month, which means they'll probably award a contractor this spring and have that project going on this summer. So just be aware of all the railroad ties being taken up between those towns. On Monday, the 28th of March, remember there's going to be an assessors meeting prior to the select board meeting. The budget advisory meeting is going to be Wednesday, April 6th. So that's the opportunity to meet with and pass the articles on to town meeting from this year's budget.
Time on that.
We'll start at 5 p.m. So, and Tammy's making dinner like she usually does.
Yeah, lobster rolls.
Budget. She's feeling pretty good about the budget.
Yeah.
That's good. Representative Ducharme is here, and I want to give him just a minute to recognize a member of the board with a legislative sentiment. Sentiment, not sediment.
They're going to be tomorrow.
Thank you. One of the things that we get to do in the legislature is if cool things happen in our towns, we get to submit them, and they do what's called a legislative sentiment. So one of the cool things that happened was last year, the town report was dedicated to Glenn Manter, and as part of that was the Spirit of America Foundation Award. And I know it was 2021 and those things were in 2021, but the list just finally got around to the offices in the legislature, and so these have all come out. So these are for 2021, but it doesn't diminish it at all. It's still a legislative sentiment. Just be it known that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, join in recognizing Glenn Manter of Madison, recipient of a Spirit of America Foundation Award. The Spirit of America Foundation was established to encourage and promote volunteerism, and the foundation presents awards to honor local individuals, organizations, or projects in appreciation of community service. We extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 130th Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. Signed on the 7th of March, 2022 by the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and several of the officers of the House and Senate. This sentiment was introduced by myself, supported by Senator Brad Farron and Representative Jen Poirier from Skowhegan. So, Glenn.
Good surprise, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for all you've done.
Have to keep busy.
I get to sit next to him.
That's all I have for communication.
Thank you. New business, number 1, we have the department head reports. We have the sheriff's report, and we have the fire department report. If you have any questions on those, town manager maybe can fill us in. If not, we'll move on to Mr. Road Commissioner.
All set.
Your department head report, you're all set?
Nothing new. Another weekend storm, of course, and getting ready for some spring cleanup and getting some of the equipment ready. On our days there's not much going on, and our salt budget still holding out pretty well. Hopefully we'll stay under with this possibility of another storm coming this weekend. And other than that, nothing else. Any questions?
If it did snow on the weekend, you would have nothing to do.
That's right, be bored.
Keep busy.
Be busy, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Road Commissioner.
One other thing,
Guess you're not done.
no, I'm not. One other thing is that the pothole, the trench in front of Dunkin' Donuts and Maple Crest Nursing Home is the responsibility of the Madison Water District, not the Madison Highway Department. I've gotten numerous calls over the weekend and the last couple of days of some concerns of people driving through it and wrecking their vehicles, so that is not the town of Madison.
How come?
How come?
How come it's the town water district and not the town?
Because they're responsible for fixing their own projects, let's say, because they had a water break there last
Oh,
week.
is that what it was?
Yeah, it was a water break, and of course, you know, this time of year, hot mix is hard to get a hold of, and from what I understand, they're in the process of getting some patch or something to fix that up, to correct the problem.
All right, thank you. All right, number 2, discuss capital spending.
So if you look in your packets, we're going to be taking a look at this handout right here, which has 2 slides on every page. And that'll kind of guide us through some of the capital spending that has been proposed from highway, fire, sidewalks, cemetery. And this is essentially this is a little deeper dive. When the capital budget was presented at the end of February, there was just large lump sums. This gives you a more complete breakdown. And you probably are all aware of this, but when it gets to town meeting, we don't talk about specific roads because it's hard to make promises that you can't always deliver on. We just talk about numbers. But this is the opportunity to see what the road commissioner's plan is as it pertains to particular roads. So the bottom slide on the first page is basically breaking down the road work that we would like to do with the money we have available. And so you see that first column, we call it Spring 22. That's the money we have left over in the current budget that can be used for road projects. So some of those roads and some of the little projects have been allocated to be used up before the end of the fiscal year. The next column you run into is what we would need to raise from taxation when we go to town meeting. And you see the roads associated there. The next column are 2 roads that we are eligible to use TIF funds on. And then the last column is new to this year. This is the American Rescue Plan Act. This is the ARPA funds. And so there are monies available that we can use for roads on that. So you see the 10 road projects on the left-hand side and the different monies that are associated. So what this means to town meeting is that town meeting will be coming to ask for $157,000 from taxation, but in all, we're going to try to accomplish about $550,000 worth of road work. I think, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the price of asphalt is significantly higher, as is everything else that's made from petroleum. Just to give you that reminder, we did the first half of Russell Road for about 130,000. And so the same distance to finish Russell Road is 190,000. So that's about a 35% increase in just the cost of asphalt. So do you have any questions? The board have any questions for the road commissioner on these projects or for me on the money? Hands are up all
Man,
over
oh,
this, Mr.
Marco,
Is the
that was quick.
price of liquid asphalt looks like it's gonna stabilize, or it's still going up?
It's still going up, Glenn. This last week alone, it had gone up $25 a ton, so that puts it up to $675 a ton for the liquid, not the piece that gets laid. That's the liquid that makes the asphalt. Normally, this time of year, in a normal year, it runs around $400.
Thank you.
These streets getting attention like Vaughn Street, Ash Street, is that an overlay on
Yes,
those
correct.
streets? Is any of the sewer or anything like that going to be doing any work there before or after? Hopefully.
Not that I'm aware of. Ash Street has already been done with water and sewer a number of years ago.
Okay.
Vaughn Street, I'm not sure, I'd have to check with water, but I believe when we had discussions, Tim and I did with water and sanitary a couple of months ago to do some projected streets in town, that street, Vaughn Street, was not on the list.
So they don't foresee digging that up in the near future?
No, unless there's a break or something.
Okay, all right.
So these others, the summer ones, those are more than an overlay, or those simply just overlays?
No, those are all overlays, Al.
Okay.
Yeah, with the exception of Young Street, where that's such a short street, and that's very much out of shape and all clay. It's only 600 feet long. There's a possibility that might be dug up and hauled some gravel and rebuilt.
Any other questions?
All right. For the most part, this is informational, but there is a recommendation that Tammy and I have for you under equipment purchases, and we'll get that there in a second. So on the top of the next page where it says equipment purchases, the road commissioner is asking to set aside $100,000 and bring that to town meeting this year to set aside that money for a replacement excavator and also $10,000 for a plow box. In case you don't know, like I don't know, a plow box is that big old box they put on a front end loader to pick up large amounts of snow. So the total highway request would be $110,000. The set aside for a fire truck, you don't have them in your sheets as the board, but I think everybody else has my edits on there. That work was just pretty much finalized today, where we signed a commitment and we will need a motion from the board. The bids that came in for the fire truck came in, as you recall, $360,000 and $450,000. $450,000 was fairly local to New England. $360,000 was deep south down in Mississippi. The committee with Mr. Manter and the chief and the deputy chief and several others went through it line by line and were able to modify a lot of that deep south bid and they all felt comfortable with it, and that's the one that they're recommending that the board accept. So we're doing a couple of things here. We're gonna put aside X amount of dollars to go to town meeting, but in the meantime, we would like it fairly clean to see if there was a motion from the board to accept the bid of Deep South contingent on town meeting vote. So we're trying to get them to get started in the paperwork process for this so they can hit the ground running in June. So the terminology for the motion should be something to the effect of to accept the bid of $345,359 from Deep South to build a new tanker pumper.
So we went from 450 to 345.
Well, that wasn't the same bid. We went from 360 to 345.
Okay. Now, how does that get here? Is that in here?
That price, and I looked at the contract and Tammy looked at the contract, that price includes delivery here.
And when do you expect delivery? Once we,
Do you recall what they were talking about?
I don't. I think it was in the bid, but I'm not sure what it was.
I think it's within 12 months.
that's fine.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion for $345,359 to Deep South pending town meeting approval. Is that?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to award the bid to Deep South for $345,359 pending town meeting approval for a fire truck. Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Moody.
So we have, on hand, we've got 175.
On hand, we've got 200,000.
Okay,
And
so
we-
we're gonna be asking for 145 for the balance.
I'm gonna get there, but that's a good question. We're actually gonna ask for 160 because there is an accessory piece that they would like to have the option to buy. But they wanted to get the truck started first and then raise the 360. And then there's about $13,000 of accessory purchase they wanna buy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Thank you. So Mr. Moody answers the next question there. So on that sheet where it says 175, that should be amended to say 160. So that's going to be the warrant item when it gets to town meeting. We'll be asking 160 to complete the purchase of the fire truck.
And that's with the extra,
And that allows them to have that accessory piece that they're
okay,
looking for.
okay.
So are there any other questions or comments on equipment purchases?
So that is the plow box, the new loader, is that one, or just another one?
Nope, that's gonna be an upgrade from what we have now. The one we have now is an old plow that was refurbished to go on any of our loaders. And it's 25 years old, 24 years old, and the plow itself is probably closer to 30 or 35. So what this does, I'm sure everybody's seen them, they go on in front of loaders to do big parking lots and,
Push up.
basically a pusher, yeah. So what you do is you push the snow. And we do use it, quite frequently, especially on the bigger storms, and if we need to clean up Main Street with it on occasions, we do use it. Yes,
Jeff, is that 12 or 14 foot?
that would be a 12-foot.
12 foot.
All right, thank you.
All right, and the next box on that page has to do with sidewalks, and we're going to talk about a couple things in regards to sidewalks. In previous meetings, the select board seemed to be concerned that we set aside a significant amount of money to try to get caught up on sidewalk repair. And then, of course, you're running into the same issue with the price of asphalt and all that. It costs more to fix sidewalks. So I'm proposing that we set aside $50,000 in TIF and raise $50,000 from town meeting. That would give you $100,000. Traditionally, we haven't spent more than $20,000 a year on sidewalks, but this would allow us to tackle more, and again, taking into consideration the cost of materials. So you see on your sheet there some of the priority sidewalks for repair that the road commissioner has put down. most of Madison Avenue. The corner of Main and Weston, which is really that corner on Main Street in front of the Somerset Abbey, if you've ever had to walk across there to get to Subway or so forth, that has got lots of topsy-turvy in it. Portions of Weston Avenue, going down in front of the mill, about 150 feet in front of the mill on Main Street, which is going to see more traffic soon. And then Garfield Street. So that's kind of like the top ones. It's not an exhaustive list, but that's where the road commissioner is recommending that we spend the money if it's raised from taxation.
Yes.
How far will that money take us as far as addressing the street? Any idea?
No idea what the price of mix is going to be. Honestly, I budgeted this year, I budgeted $25 more per ton in my budget as compared to last year, and I'm not even sure that's going to be enough because the laid price itself, I'm sure, is going to be going up also just because of labor and trucking costs.
Is your priorities, are they set as you've got them listed here?
That is on the next page.
Well, actually, the next page is your plowing priority.
Oh, plowing priorities.
Yeah.
These are the main ones that need to be done.
From top to bottom,
From top to
these are
bottom.
your priorities.
And this would cover, some of these, keep in mind, some of these are going to be an overlay, such as an example for Madison Avenue from Rawl Street to up to Lerner's Lane. That can be an overlay, but certain sections of Weston Avenue with a piece in front of the Congo Church will have to be, dug out and redone. So there are some places that we can get by with an inch overlay.
Yeah, I would think that Main Street, Weston Avenue corner is quite a priority there. There's a lot of foot traffic right there.
Yeah, there is, and seems to be more activity of parents walking their kids up to the school up Madison Avenue. I've noticed from the garage. There's a section on the other side of Madison Avenue, on the Campbell side, from Main Street to Bean Street. That did not get done last year, so that money is still set aside from last year for a rebuild. And that piece will be done very first as soon as we can get working on it this spring.
Thank you.
That cleans up Madison Avenue then pretty well.
Yes, it does, Ally.
Takes all the way up.
It does, yeah.
And the other thing I might add as a reminder that the road commissioner helps me remember is a lot of the costs on this depends on how much availability his crew has. If his crew has the availability to do some of the demo work and cleanup work and prep work, then we absorb some of that cost internally, and then it's just paving. If they don't have a crew that's able to do that during the summer because of time off or other projects they need to get done, then the whole project gets taken on by a contractor, which makes the cost that much higher.
That would be awesome.
So while we're on the topic of sidewalks, the road commissioner did provide me with this long one-page list. And this is very helpful for me, especially during the winter months when you might get a phone call as, why isn't my sidewalk in front of my house plowed? So the way the sidewalks are listed on this sheet are in order of plowing priority in the wintertime. So Main Street, north and south. And what's the interesting part about the south side of Main Street, which would be the junior high side, the economy trophy side, that when the sidewalk plow, when Larry goes to work, he does that back and forth and back and forth. He does that 3 times because it's wider and it's heavily traveled. And then you can see as the list goes down, those are the priorities as to the streets that we get to, depending on the storm, depending on the severity of it. But as you can see, we cover about 6.71 miles of sidewalks in town. And then on the bottom part of that list, certain parts of Park Street, Heel Street, and then we've been talking about Middle, Houghton, and Gray Street. Those are not plowed at all. In some cases, it's because they're just extra. In other cases, it's because the sidewalk has deteriorated so bad, it's not worth putting a plow on. So this is for your information, and I appreciate the road commissioner sharing that with me, because it certainly helps us answer questions when people ask questions about sidewalk plowing.
And this is going to go into the town report.
Well, we've talked about that, maybe modifying something about this just to give people that general sense of information.
Any other questions on that? Continuing on, Mr. Bruce.
So the top of the next sheet has 4 targeted cemeteries. The board earlier this year talked about putting money aside to do repair work at cemeteries. And these cemeteries mentioned are the largest cemeteries outside of Forest Hills. So the Madison Bridge Cemetery, Kincaid Road, Jewett, which is on 43, and the East Madison Dam Cemetery. And so if you raised $50,000 at town meeting, this is probably where that money would be spent. And just keep in mind, it's not talking about a complete restoration of the stones. This is just money to spend to fix broken stones and broken bases, and to cut back some brush and cut back some of the trees that are encroaching on the cemeteries. So I just want to make sure that the public understands, we're not talking about a total rehab of cemetery stones. This is just the basics.
I know the last time we addressed this type of reconditioning, or whatever you want to call it, we used Elias monuments to fix all the broken stones and upright those and stuff, and it worked well. I don't know who else you've got in mind, but I'd like to see that company get a crack at it, because they did such a good job for us the last time.
We have gotten most of our quotes from Mike Sexton, Mike Ricker, who is our sexton. And Tammy can speak to this, but we've talked about it. We've made several contacts to Elias, and we haven't heard anything back yet. So.
I'll try again this spring.
So the idea is that after this next year, we'll continue to put more into that to try, if possible, to try to update again.
Right, you will have to just continually pull this money to do the nature of the repair that needs to be done.
Okay. So it's not a one-year deal?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No. So if there's no other questions on all these capital expenses, the last box basically is a breakdown of what we'd be taking to town meeting. So again, with the adjustment of the fire equipment from 175 to 160, the total request raised from the town meeting is $527,000, which is a few dollars less than what we raised in capital for equipment and paving last year. So.
Any questions? We're comfortable moving forward?
So the next time you'll be discussing this will be with the advisory board meeting on the 6th of April.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. All right, number 3, update on Rpa spending.
So this kind of goes along with the capital, and it's the last little page here that's got the highlighted areas. Last time you saw this, the Treasury Department had not issued their final rule on how you can spend this ARPA funding. Recently they did, and Tammy and I have taken a couple of online trainings, and it's actually a little bit of a sigh of relief, because now they allow most municipalities to allocate all of their funding that they received to this category called lost revenue. And in the lost revenue category, you can spend it on your capital projects. And this is a good thing for the ARPA money. So to date, we have only spent $32,850, and that was the hazard pay paid to essential employees in December. I am recommending that we move all of the remaining spending, or I should say almost all of it, to the lost revenue section, because we can use that to fund some building improvements to the town office, fund a portion of that fire truck that we've been talking about. That was a motion that the board already made several meetings ago, and just dedicate it to road work this year and road work next year. If you remember in that road work slide, we had Lower Mills Road dedicated under ARPA funds. So that's where I would recommend that comes from for this year. And then if the board wants to do another matching grant program, as they did this past year, I would recommend going forward, we try to get that approved out of the ARPA funds. And, pardon me, pay the existing matching grants that we have outstanding this year out of TIF. The reason for that is these ARPA funds, it's highly recommended that you have a town meeting approval of each one of these projects. So I'd like to bring to town meeting $35,000 for a matching grant, if that's what you would like to do. And then bring to town meeting $50,000 for the fire truck, $110,000 for Lower Mills Road. And so that way you're getting specific public input, town meeting approval for each one of these items. So my first question to you, you don't need to approve this because we're going to be building it article by article, and you'll have an opportunity to approve that when we approve all the articles for town meeting. But I just wanted to get your consensus. Do you want to use these funds for another round of matching grants next summer? If you don't, I would just fold that $35,000 into other infrastructure projects.
Have you seen the need for that?
I've seen the ask for it.
Ask for it.
As far as businesses would still like to see some of that matching grant dollars.
Okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea also.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I needed.
Thank you. Number 4, discuss quick claim deeds for letter A, 60 Maple Street.
So I'm going to give these to you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 3 quick claim deeds tonight. These were all properties that fell into foreclosure on February 25th. As directed by the select board, all 3 of these properties have been paid in full, not just the 19s, but the 20s and 21s. So they've all been paid in full. The first one at 60 Maple Street is a property that has been in the name of Margaret Inman for several years, even though Miss Inman passed away several years ago. That property, all the back taxes have been paid, all of the liened sewer bills have been paid, and some of the Madison Electric bills have been paid for what we collected of that property. And so I'm recommending to the board that you quit claim it to her son. So that is Lawrence and Deborah Ashby, who live in Starks, Maine. They're the ones that paid all the taxes. They happen to be here at the meeting, so.
All right, we're looking for a motion to award the quick claim deed with no covenants.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second to award a quick claim deed with no covenants to Lawrence E. and Deborah M. Ashby. Mr. Moody.
Tim, are they the owners now?
No, technically, Miss Inman was the owner, even though she was deceased.
Who owns it now? She's deceased.
She owns it. Well, the town of Madison owns it right now, but
Okay.
I will say, just to clarify, there was no probate when she passed away.
Right, yeah.
She did have relatives living there, but they, as you can see, were not paying the taxes or any of the other utilities.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. The second one is a quick claim deed to Dean Salvo for, where am I looking at here?
So this
15 Hideaway Lane.
So this property is over by the lake. It's off of Honeywell, and there's 2 camps down on Hideaway Lane. I had a conversation with the Salvos, and they wrote a check for all of it to be all completely caught up. So they live in New Hampshire.
You looking for a motion?
Mr. Gopi, let's get a motion first, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Moody.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to award a quick claim deed to Dean Salvo, sale of New Hampshire for property in Madison on 15 Hideaway Lane. Mr. Gopi.
Yes, is this all paid up?
Yes,
Everything's all
all 3 years are paid up, so there's no back taxes.
Okay.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Gotta have that one back. All right, we have our third one. A quick claim deed to Stephen D. and Rebecca L. Withy at 189 Preble Avenue.
And all the back taxes were paid on this one last week.
All right, looking for that motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to award a quick claim deed with no covenants to to Stephen D. and Rebecca L. Withy of 189 Preble Avenue. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, moving forward, we are at H, Selectmen's Concerns. Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Manter?
No.
Wyatt?
I'm all good, thank
Mr.
you.
Goody?
None.
So that's citizens' concerns. Citizens' concerns? Citizens' concerns. I see none. Looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss economic development matter pursuant to 1 MRS 4056C.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session.
I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss economic development matter pursuant to 1 MRS 406C. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We'll be in executive session at 7:06.